Hello and welcome to Music Legends with DJ Ray. When I think about the larger-than-life figures who shaped rock history, Gene Simmons is one of the first names that comes to mind. He's one of those rare artists who didn't just play music, he built a world around it. And today I want to take you on a journey through his story, because it's one of the most fascinating in all of rock and roll. He was 8 years old when he moved to New York. He didn't speak English, didn't have any money, and certainly didn't have any connections. But he had curiosity. He fell in love with American pop culture, comic books, monster movies, and the early sounds of rock music. What's interesting is that Gene wasn't obsessed with being the best musician. He was obsessed with understanding how stars become stars. He studied fame like a science. He watched how performers created mystique, how they built characters, how they turned themselves into icons. And that mindset would eventually lead to one of the biggest rock brands ever created. In the early 1970s, Gene met Paul Stanley, and the two quickly realized they shared a vision. They didn't want to be just another rock band. They wanted to create a spectacle, something bigger, louder, and more theatrical than anything happening at the time. And in 1973, Kiss was born. Gene became the Demon, complete with armor, bat wings, and that now legendary tongue. But here's the genius. Gene didn't just wear makeup. He created a mythology. He understood that fans didn't just want music, they wanted characters, stories, and escapism. And Kiss delivered all of that in explosive fashion. By the mid-70s, Kiss was selling out arenas across the world. Their shows were unlike anything rock had ever seen. Fire-breathing, blood-spitting, pyrotechnics, and a level of theatricality that made every concert feel like a comic book come to life. And Gene was at the center of it, towering over the stage with that deep, booming voice and aggressive bass style. Now, Gene's theatrics often overshadow his musicianship, but he's a seriously underrated bassist. His playing gave Kiss their punch, heavy, driving, and unmistakably Gene. Songs like God of Thunder, Calling Dr. Love, I Love It Loud, and Detroit Rock City all carry his signature energy. His voice added grit and menace to the band's sound, balancing Paul Stanley's melodic style with something darker and more powerful. But Gene Simmons didn't stop at music. This is where he becomes truly fascinating. Gene didn't just want to be a rock star. He wanted to be a brand. And he succeeded on a scale few musicians have ever matched. Kiss became one of the most merchandised bands in history. We're talking action figures, comic books, lunchboxes, pinball machines, board games, Halloween costumes, and yes, even Kiss-branded coffins. Gene once said, "If it exists, we'll put our name on it," and he meant it. The Kiss empire has generated over $1 billion in merchandise sales, putting them in the same league as Disney and Star Wars. Gene helped pioneer the idea that a band could be more than music. It could be a universe. And that idea changed the music industry forever. On stage, Gene is the Demon, breathing fire, spitting blood, commanding the crowd with a presence that feels almost supernatural. Off stage, he's articulate, strategic, and surprisingly thoughtful about fame and business. He understood early on that fans want more than songs. They want identity. They want characters. They want a world to step into. And Gene built that world piece by piece. When you look at his achievements, the list is staggering. Over 100 million albums sold worldwide, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and one of the most successful live acts of all time. A merchandising empire unmatched in rock history. A career spanning 5 decades. And a cultural impact that still echoes through modern music. Artists like Motley Crue, Twisted Sister, Slipknot, Lady Gaga, and countless others owe part of their theatrical DNA to what Gene Simmons and Kiss created. He didn't just influence rock, he influenced entertainment. Gene Simmons is many things: musician, businessman, provocateur, icon. But above all, he's proof that rock and roll is bigger than sound. It's identity, it's imagination, it's theater. And whether you love him or roll your eyes at him, you can't deny the impact he's had on music and culture. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Music Legends with DJ Ray. If you enjoyed this short podcast, make sure to follow and share this video. Until next time, always remember that music holds the frequency needed to transcend the human condition. See you next time.